Welcome to the Halley Elise Show, featuring your host, empowerment psychic Halley Elise. She is an author, psychic, and media personality, and has been listed as one of the top 100 psychics in America. Empowerment psychic Halley Elise shares the spiritual, metaphysical, holistic, and magical powers of the universe. Follow Halley on her website at HalleyElise.com, and all her shows can be seen via live stream video. Now, here's your host, empowerment psychic Halley Elise.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I don't have any guests this evening, it's just me, but I wanted to talk about something that I thought might be of interest to you. I've been running into a lot of clients who come in and they say, I just don't know what I want. I've been in the same career, I want to make a change, but I don't really know what I want. If it were up to me, I would just run away to the island somewhere and, bathe all day on the beach type of thing. Not very practical for a lot of people that do have to work, that have to generate an income. But there's nothing wrong with being able to do something you love. I'm very grateful to say I can do that. I have an opportunity to do speaking engagements, and I have one-on-one clients for, the psychic work and for life skills and hypnosis, and I have a great time, truly. Energy work, all of these things fascinate me. They make me happy, and I get a chance to share with others. I especially like, standing in front of groups when I do the psychic gallery, or if I do a presentation for keynote. There's not anything better. And I think everybody should be entitled to do the same thing. And it's funny because even when I was a kid, people used to say, oh, you need to get a real job. I did makeup artistry for 20 years professionally. I had worked with people that are all over the place. It's kind of funny because I think back, wow, that's pretty cool. I was a kid, basically. But I had a great time with that too. It was like one of the things that I really loved to do. And it was funny though, I have to share this because at the time I didn't really let too many people know that I did any sort of psychic work. And yet I would be sitting with a client in the chair doing their makeup, and they would say, well, what's your feeling on this? And it was just really very funny. I would go home and share that, and it was just automatic. And I realized by talking with other friends that were in the same industry that wasn't the norm. So I was doing the psychic thing before I was doing the psychic thing, if you will, out of the closet. Anyway, back to what I was saying as to being happy. Years ago, I was with somebody, and he was very discontent, didn't know what he wanted to do. And I said, you know what, well, let's sit down, let's figure that out. And you would think that's supposed to be very easy, right? Be able to say, well, okay, I want A, B, C, D, and E, and I want it to look like this, and have all these parameters and specifics. And the truth is, most people go, okay, if I have free reign of my little magical wand that I'm going to take out and I'm going to go deep, what does that look like? Most people don't. One of the easiest ways to find out what you like, and I've shared this before on different shows with different content, is to really get in touch with what you don't like. There's a fuzzy floating around the studio here. And one of the best ways to do that is really sit for a moment and say, okay, the job that I'm in right now, what is it I don't like? And take a piece of paper, seriously, and write 2 columns. Put a line down the center vertically. And on one side, put what I don't like. On the other side, what I do like. On the one side, you perhaps might say, well, I work 40 hours a week, and then because I'm in management, they call me at all hours of the night because alarms go off, or because somebody's calling in and they can't make it the next day and I have to cover, or, the home office is unhappy, or whatever it is. So that I don't really work 40 hours a week. What I work is an extended 65 hours, sometimes 80 hours a week, and I don't want to do that. Okay. That's a start. Put that down in the first column. This is what you know is absolutely clear, very succinct. You don't want to do that. What would be the opposite? What would be, if you don't know exactly, what would it look like if you know that you are going to work? How would you express working so that you could be happy? Meaning, would 20 hours a week make you happy? 30, 40, 50? If you're doing 65 to 80 hours a week and you know that's uncomfortable, what would it look like? Well, you might turn around and say, well, I'm good with 40 hours a week. I like to be at work. I like to feel important in my day, that I'm getting things done. And I know if I'm home, I'm really not going to do that. So yeah, 40 hours a week, that would be great. And then I would really enjoy my off time. So that would go in your second column. Okay, so far, real good, right? Real easy. Now the tough part. Where do you want to actually work? Oh, well, I don't know. Well, the job that you're in. What does that look like? Again, first column. Well, I work in retail and I work for a big department store chain, and there's lots and lots of people. There's too many people. There's too much noise. There's all of these things. Well, you start writing all this down, and really you start to get an understanding as to what it looks like if you want something different. If you want to be more physical in your job and all you're doing is sitting on your tuchus because you have an office job, then write that down. I want to be more physical. I want to be moving in my day. If you want to be doing something creative and you're working with accounting, okay, put this down. You see my point? It really is not as complex as one might think. And yet, by the same token, when you have that little magic wand, like I said, being able to just go, doo-doo, it takes a moment because we're so accustomed to just doing what we're supposed to do. And thinking outside of the box sometimes means, oh, wait, I have to give up an old paradigm. My old paradigm says I have to work at least 40 hours a week and whatever more the company wants of me for me to be able to be successful, for me to be able to have an income, for me to be seen as a valuable employee. Okay, again, old paradigm. And the reason that I say it that way is I think back to years and years ago, my grandmother's time. People went to work and there was the idea that they worked for a certain amount of years and then they got a pension and then they got to retire and they were appreciated with their gold pin or their bottle of champagne or, whatever it was that they received, and they were going to retire. And retirement for most of them meant they were going to spend time with the grandkids. They were going to maybe travel a little bit. Nowadays, not so much. People don't think so much about retiring. Either it's because it's inconvenient in respect to finances, or it's a matter of family is not that close. A lot of people used to live down the street from one another. Not so much anymore. I have friends up north who I'd love to go visit them because they still have the idea of that family unit. You have, let's say, a husband and wife, and they've got an upstairs, and their daughter and son-in-law live there, and then the sister lives down the street, and then the mother-in-law lives down the street, and you get the gist. The idea is during the holidays, everybody's together. During special occasions, everybody's together. If you need a babysitter, built in. You got your family right down the street. Okay, point being, that's not as often found today. People tend to travel to branch out on their own. They start their own lives. They look in different directions. Just the idea of sitting and having a meal sometimes is tough. So you want to take all this into consideration when you're thinking about what do you want. On that column, on that second column where it talks about how you want your job to work in your life, it's not the other way around, by the way. It's not you working for a job and making it fit as to you having to ascribe to everybody else's belief system. It is more a matter of you saying, I am choosing something better for me. And that affirmation right there, I am choosing something better for me, put that across your paper on the top. I am choosing something better for me. Those two little words, I am, are very powerful words in the universe. As soon as you start to say, I am, the universe listens. It wants to conspire to assist you in you getting what it is you need. But it's not just a matter of making a statement. That's part of it. Part of it is actually, again, knowing. So I'm going back to that, looking at that piece of paper and saying, okay, left side, first column, these are the things I do not like. I have no time. I work too hard. I'm not appreciated. I'm not making the type of money I want. I'm in air conditioning all day. I'm sitting on my tush all day. Whatever those, if you will, characteristics are that you're uncomfortable with, put them down. The other side, remember, put down all the things you want. Well, I want to see the sunshine when I'm working. Okay, that's doable. I want to be able to get up and move at least twice every hour. Again, doable. And you have to think that way while you're writing this. If you start to write, well, I'd like to do this, and you look at it and you think, oh, well, that's a pipe dream. I'll never do that. Then you're right. Absolutely. Then you are correct, because you won't even allow yourself to entertain the idea of making something happen. So what you really truly need to do is get clear, and writing this information down, even if you think it's very abstract, even if you think it's out in la la land, write it down. I started to say earlier that I was with a man some time ago who had the same sort of conundrum. And we're no longer together, but it was a couple of years after we had been together. He called, he says, I got to tell you, I'm actually doing what I want. He says, do you remember we sat down and we wrote out all that stuff? And I said, yes. He says, well, I have it. No, isn't that interesting? It actually happened. Did it happen the next day? No, it didn't. But I think by the same token, he wasn't prepared at that point to make that type of major change. He needed to do something in between. That's up to you. There's also the idea that a lot of people have, we'll say, multi-talents, multi-skill sets, and they don't know what they want to do because they want to do everything. So why not? And again, old paradigm, no. You have to get a job. You have to work X number of hours. You have to stick to that job so you can be successful, so you can move through it, so you can do. Okay, why? We very rarely find companies with big pensions anymore. And the ones that do give big pensions are usually a different type of organization than, let's say, the average individual who is working for themselves or working for a mom and pop or even for a small chain. So if you like to do many things, let's say you love the art world and you also love the food industry and you also love music, there are ways to do all of it in one place, but there's also a way to do it in several places. Why not get a job at a beautiful art gallery or become a curator at a museum? I mean, this is a way to connect with the art world, or volunteer with something artistic in the community. There's, again, a plethora of ways to do this. And you can have 3 jobs, not because you're exhausted, but because you're doing the things you love. If you want to work, let's say, 40 hours a week, perhaps you work one job 20 hours and the other one 10 and the other one 10. It's doable. Again, look at that second column that you're writing on and get specific. Well, if I could, I'd love to do A, B, C, and D. Write it down. And what would that look like? And when I say what would that look like, you could say, well, obviously, if I'm working for somebody, they're paying me. Well, no, it's not obvious. This is your time to create. As I mentioned before, the universe will conspire to support you, but you have to let it know what you want. So let's say, as an example, the curator at the museum that I mentioned. Well, you can assume that you're going to make big bucks because you're around beautiful art and because it's a museum and it's impressive and you've got some background and talent. And you walk in the door and they offer you the lowest amount of money possible. Write it down. I would like to have whatever that number is or better. Or the universe is bringing this to me or something greater. Or at least this amount. Any of those phrases work. And there's something else to think about while you're doing this. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It has to do with your verbiage. It has to do with how you speak. Not just because you're having a conversation, but because the words have value and the words have meaning. So for instance, if you say, I hope versus I am, I hope is, good luck, Charlie. The universe goes, yes, you are. You're hoping. That's nice. I am means I'm making it happen. Follow? So as I go on about this, start to let your mind go into whatever direction it needs to if you are not doing exactly what you love in your world. And even if you're doing what you love in your world and you're not finding it to fulfill you enough, or you're not finding that you are reaching out and touching enough people, you can do the same thing with this piece of paper. 2 columns. First column, what you don't want, what you don't like, what you have that's not working. And it's not a session where you're supposed to be griping. It is literally a moment to be able to say, okay, I'm going to get real. I don't like this because it feels this way, or it's not allowing me to do, or I thought I'd be somewhere else at this point, whatever that is. And then on the other side, start writing what you would like it to look like. Well, I'm a photographer and I love doing photography, but I'm stuck doing little kids who scream all day and I don't like that. What I'd love to do is the fashion world. What I'd love to do is perhaps work with an advertising company. Yeah, that's a great idea. Advertising company, and, help them market products, because products don't make noise. They don't yell at you, You can take the idea that you have and expand on it, make it as big as you want, make it as colorful as you want. The bigger, the better. Because the more that you start to create, the more that you start to fill in the blanks, the more the universe goes, oh, okay, we can work on that. But not only that, let's take the energy out of it for a moment. Let's take that, if you will, that metaphysical aspect out as far as the universe helping you, assisting you, and think in terms of yourself. When you know exactly what it is that you want and you start to gain confidence that you will have it, you get it. I mean, it's really that simple. You should be able to wake up in the morning with a smile about your day, do the happy dance. Yay, I'm going to work. I'm doing what I want. I mean, think about how much time we spend at work. Truly, if you're not enjoying it, that can be awful. You know, it's the same thing for our children. If they're in a school and they come home and they say, oh my gosh, Mom, I can't stand the teacher. This teacher is so difficult. And, you know, I raise my hand and the teacher never answers me. And your child has all of these complaints. Sit down with your child. Get to understand what it is that they need. And the reason I bring this up is because I believe it's Palm Beach County that just started back to school, and the local counties, you know, here in South Florida are just getting back to school now. So there are going to be a lot of situations where kids are coming home and they're miserable, whether it's the teacher yells or carries on or, you know, whatever it is. You can address it without getting huffy, without immediately calling the superintendent of the school. You can sit down with your child and have them really examine what is it they want. And when they're clear, you can then determine, does the child need a new classroom? Do they need a new teacher? Do they need to apply themselves more? Do they need to perhaps step it up a little bit? So these are some things to think about in respect to having what you want. And you can apply this in work. You can apply this in school. You can apply this in relationships too. Perhaps sit down, and this is going to sound kind of funny because, if you will, relationship coaching or counseling is not my thing. But some things, again, are doable in all situations, and this is one of them. So let's say you've been having some difficulty with your partner. Doesn't matter if you're married, if it's boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you. Agree to sit down and write out what it is that you seem there's a disconnect with. Each of you have your own piece of paper. And then write down on the other side what it is you'd like to see. And then compare notes. It acts as a tool to open conversation. You may have not known that your spouse is upset because you go to bed at 9 o'clock and they'd really like to be able to stay up with you and watch a film till 10. Or perhaps you don't know that they come home and they're on the phone for the entire time after they get in, and you eat dinner while they're on the phone and it disturbs you. These things we take for granted, but eventually they add up. And at some point, there's a frustration. At some point, there's a resentment. Relationships don't die because people get tired of each other. It's because they grow in different directions. It's because their needs are not met. So if there's a simple tool to use to make that happen, doesn't it make sense to do so? Give some thought to this. Again, easy tool to work with. Okay, I'm going to ask Kenny to go ahead and give us a little break time, and we should be back in just a moment with the Halley Elise Show. Thank you.
Bob, did you see Halley Elise in the paper?
Who?
The empowerment psychic, Halley Elise. They did a 2-page write-up. The columnist was enthralled. Halley went right to an issue that she was dealing with. I'm looking at HalleyElise.com right now.
What are you thinking? Should we schedule an appointment?
Matter of fact, yes. You have issues with Sue and me, my business. Take a look at her background. It's impressive, and she has decades of experience.
I want to put it on my iPad. What's her info?
Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise. HalleyElise.com. 561-755-2166.
Spell it.
HalleyElise.com.
So it's HalleyElise.com and 561-755-2166, right?
561-755-2166. That's it.
You're listening to Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise, and she invites you to visit her website for more information about all that she does at HalleyElise.com. Now, back to your host, Empowerment Psychic Halley Elise.
Hello and welcome back. Love that commercial. It says that I invite you to go to my website. Yes, I do, matter of fact. Go to the website. It has information about psychic phenomena. It has information about fees and schedules and activities. And there's a video there an old one, from the Palm Beach Post when they featured me, that talks a little bit about finding romance. Again, it's funny, not really my thing. I have a feeling that, you talk about the universe conspiring to make things happen, that I'm going to kind of be pushed into that direction for some reason. It seems to be coming up a lot with my clients and even with friends. So, anywho, when you get a chance, take a look at HalleyElise.com. It does always have the new date for the Psychic Gallery, and I'm saying that, and I'm hoping my webmaster is watching and that he changed it. It's the first Monday of the month, every month. So unless there's, let's say, Christmas or New Year's Eve, it is the first Monday of the month. And if we make a change, we do post it all over Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as the website, so you can find it. Speaking of those connections, if you are connected with me on Facebook, but you're just connected to the Halley Elise page, you may want to take a look at the Psychic Gallery, or you may want to take a look at HalleyElise.com, or better yet, the Halley Elise Show, because different content goes on each of the pages. A lot of people assume because I have several pages that the same content is on each of them. Not so. There may be one or two things that are similar, but the rest of it is diverse. And you might want to connect to some of the other people that are connecting on those pages. Also, I do have a group which is kind of small. I think we have about 400 people. I have to check the number. I haven't looked in a while, but it's called Psychic Stories with Halley Elise, and it's actually W-Halley. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And our group shares information about anything from a question on something having to do with psychicism to metaphysics to seeing ghosts. So it's kind of a fun little page. You can share information, you can ask questions. The only thing that I ask is you do not advertise your business or advertise your wares at all. It really is an interactive community, and it's not really about sales. So that being said, you can find me there on Facebook with all those different pages. And I'm in several groups on Facebook as well, because I try to support other communities and other groups. And it's, again, nice to interact with people. I'm going to go back to the Psychic Gallery here for a minute and mention that you want to find some like-minded people, come out to the Psychic Gallery the first Monday of the month. Not only do you have an opportunity to de-stress and breathe and really just get centered, but you also get an opportunity to tap into your own innate abilities, meet some great people, laugh, and have mini reading. I mean, you can't beat it, all kidding aside. The fee to enter is only $25 at the door. Very reasonable, considering what's out there. And we always have a great time, all kidding aside. And it's in a beautiful environment. I have the gallery downstairs at my office, and it has beautiful ponds and greenery and flowers, and it's pretty much an atrium across the entire bottom part of the building. So when you come in right away, you're like, oh, I feel good. So if you've worked all day and you need a little breather, great place to be, truly. So remember, first Monday of the month at 7:30 p.m., and the rest of the information is on the website, HalleyElise.com. So very easy. Now, going back to what I was sharing earlier today about, I started out with work, like if you're dissatisfied with the work you're doing, or with how you're feeling about it, or the money, or you're just bored, there are ways of helping yourself. And if you're just tuning in, what I had shared before was you make two columns. First column is what you don't like. Second column is what you do. And you start to take the time to develop what it is that's going to make you happy. You allow yourself to think outside of the box. It's really funny that our society in America has changed so much over the years. We have more yoga classes, I would say, per city than now than we had ever. Truly, we have holistic shops and holistic doctors, and we have good food, and we are a vegan society, and we are a gluten-free society, and we have all of these things available to us. Why not use them? And if you're thinking, well, how does that tie into work, or how does that tie into me being happy? A lot of times people just go to work. That's what they know. They have that vision, that laser focus, that they have to work, they have to make a living, and that's it. And, if they can get in some downtime, great. Or if they can get a vacation once a year, great. And so they don't allow themselves to partake of some of these other things. And some of these other things, such as going to a meditation class or a yoga class or trying a different diet, can make you feel great. A lot of times people are sluggish and they don't realize it has so much to do with their food, or it has to do with they're not sleeping and they're not breathing. Meaning, like they catch maybe 5 hours a night, and then during the day they're so busy, harried about that they don't take a deep breath. And here's an opportunity to do so by getting involved. Even on Meetup, I think Meetup is amazing. I have found so many different classes and programs and organizations that get together to help you. So start thinking about your world perhaps in a little different way. If you want to change, you can make a change. It is simply a matter of being proactive. Don't wait for somebody to knock at the door. Allow yourself to begin to be insistent that you should have a good life, that you should wake up happy, that you should go to bed happy. I know I've said this probably many times before, but I have people that come up to me sometimes and like, why are you always smiling? What's bad about that? Truly. I thank you for tuning in. I hope this evening gave you something to work with. If you'd like to contact me, feel free to get in touch on the website or Facebook. And I wish you a beautiful week. Good night.
Be enchanted and delighted. Connect each week here on WNN for the Halley Elise Show. Also on Facebook and at HalleyElise.com. Thanks for tuning in. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors.